Welcome, superhero. Your heart is in the right place. I am Bridget Fonger. I wrote a book called Superhero of Love, Heal Your Broken Heart and Then Go Save the World. In this second season of the Superhero of Love podcast, I'm gathering tips from thought leaders about how we can unpandemicize our hearts, heal the effects of the pandemic on our hearts, and love and be loved more than ever before. So, let's get this heart party started. Welcome. Welcome, superheroes. We are here with two giant, profound superheroes of love who have two of the giantest hearts on the planet Earth. And their names are Pagliei Simpson and John Simpson. And full disclosure, I've known John Simpson almost all of my life.
Yeah.
John, for 50 years.
Oh my God, you're right.
That is right. This is our 50th anniversary of knowing each other. Happy anniversary, John.
Oh my.
It's a semi-centennial we should be celebrating. We are celebrating.
We're celebrating with this. We're celebrating with The Way of Wonder, which is Patti and John's new book. Yeah. Which we're going to start talking about in a second, but we got to rattle through a lot of other things really quickly here because I need to give you context about how giant superheroes of love they are. So first of all, Patti started a line of jewelry, which I'm sure in the course of this interview you'll talk about it a little bit, and she talks about it in her book, but it's called Waxing Poetic, and you can find it. Right now, you can Google waxingpoetic.com and go to the website and see how extraordinary and beautiful it is. So she is a creator, a true artist, as is John, a true artist. And I've always thought of John, because you've been a surfer and a poet, as far as I'm concerned, like the whole time that I've known you. So both of you, and Patti I've known as long. How long have you guys been married? How long have you guys been together?
We've been together 20 years or more.
Yeah, 21 years and married for 20 next year.
Yeah.
So I've known Patti that long. And Patti is a true artiste, but also both of them lead with their hearts and lead with love. And I've also witnessed them going through some struggling times, which are interwoven into the book. You get the experiences of how they continue to live with wonder in spite of these extraordinary, difficult circumstances going on in their lives. So, but I want everybody to know that you guys lead with your hearts in the most beautiful way. And as far as long as I've known both of you, that is absolutely the case. So it was when you said the title of the book, when you first said the title of the book, I was like, of course you're writing the book on wonder. There is no book on wonder. And you guys are writing the book on wonder. Again, The Way of Wonder. And it's coming out September 19th. Yes?
Yeah.
September 19th. So you guys can pre-order it now, The Way of Wonder. And it is exquisite. It is beautiful. I have to tell you, can I just tell you this little thing, which is that I started doing yoga again because I used to do yoga when I didn't need yoga, right, for my body. Now I have a new relationship with yoga, which is less wonder and more. No, I'm kidding. It is full of wonder, but I have to do it every day now, right? So, and I'm falling in love with it in a new way, right? You know what I'm saying? And your book felt to me like it's the experience of reading your book. I felt like was going through yoga poses, like going through this exquisite, just like extended yoga class where every chapter was like a different pose. You know how you stretch your body and you stretch your soul and you stretch your heart and you stretch everything when you're in a yoga, right? And it felt like your book did that for me. And by the end, I felt like stronger and more relaxed and inspired. And anyway, I just wanted to tell you that it's just such a nurturing book. So I wanted to give you that, and I'm going to stop talking so soon. But I want to hear from you both. Tell us your process of coming to this book, and also you had something very unique that most humans on the planet Earth do not have. Someone came to you and said, will you write a book on wonder? So can you tell us about that and then the process of starting on the book journey?
Sure. first, I just want to say thank you for that beautiful experience of the book, because it's the only other person that's really read this book is my sister.
Ah,
We're kind of slow to like the promotional sort of cycle with the book. But the material's been with us for over 20 years because we've been writing for a long, long time. And we've been doing it together, which is something kind of interesting that I guess we'll talk about at some point. But how it happened is, and it's so interesting. It's sort of, like things happen in the time that they happen. And the way of wonder, we've been like sort of purveyors of wonder at Waxing Poetic for 21, 22 years. And we always put poetry, and me, John, my sister, our poets, we've had lots of creatives that have contributed to the brand, but there was always this sort of like, no, this is about something more than the thing. It's all the meaning and connection, and connecting to something greater. And it's in many ways, I think I wanted to write and fell into doing Waxing Poetic as my main form of expression. And I put my energy and my love and my exploration to the subject of wonder over the years through Waxing Poetic. And so there was a lot of material that we've had in the brand, vis-a-vis blog posts, catalogs, beautiful catalogs that read like, book of poetry with poetry sprinkled throughout, strong themes, me sharing personal experiences and all those things. And turns out, after Bridget, you came and did an event with Jen Pastiloff at our shop, and you spoke about like, why, if you want to write, you got to be writing. And that's when I was like, I've been writing, but I sort of like, I've always had this, idea that and John and I talk all the time about lots of ideas come, the bells ring, and we're like, oh, answer that one. That's a good one. Like, have to write a book. And so I started actually culling the material from Waxing Poetic into a book of poetry, maybe like 3 years pre-pandemic, something like that. And then you came up and did the event. I don't know what that was, 2018, 2000. Do you remember?
2019. It was out. Yeah.
And that really like kind of lit me to kind of push it a little bit. And it's kind of, this is sort of the weird serendipitous way that it happened. Do you know Linda Sievertson?
Yes.
I met, okay, so
I know, I've known her for years, many years. Oh my God.
She's fantastic book mama, and she leads retreats, and she has a fantastic podcast. I just love her voice, and I love her interview style. And John does also.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And so as we're, thinking about writing memoir, we're listening to her podcast, and I said to John, I'm feeling the pull to like do a retreat with Linda.
Yeah.
And, can I do that? And I'm running the companies and doing all this, the other work that we do. And John said, if you really want to do it, yeah, do it. And so I did that. And literally like the week or so after we started, a publisher came to us. It was sort of just like get into action and then be open to see what happens. And that's sort of exactly what happened. I mean, in many ways we were in action because we were writing the whole time and working together, editing Waxing Poetic's storytelling. But then this publisher, who is a fan of Waxing Poetic, wrote a nice email to my sister, and my sister gave it to us. And my sister said, this publisher reached out to us. She wants to know if you want to write a book. And I was like, okay, let's take that meeting. So we take the meeting, and she said, I love your poetry, is so rich, and I see the interaction in your brand, you have a community and everything. And I think that, and they specialize, Quarto Press, Rock Point Publishing, they specialize in beautiful books for the gift market, hardcover, full color, embossed, lovely. She said, we're thinking, like, would you consider writing a book about wonder?
Oh.
And we were like, okay, we'll get back to you on that.
Oh my gosh.
Like, wonder. This is fantastic. It's like the thing you've been like seeking is kind of coming back and looking for you. And that is the truth. That's how it happened. And we got into a contract like, month and a half, got an agent with Jen Pasloff's help, and signed the contract, and then we started the endeavor of writing this book, and that's kind of how it's.
God, it's so exciting. I love that you take action and things come to you. I just love that, because sometimes people miss and they get frozen at the not taking action and the fear, or one of the things that you mentioned in your book, doubt. I love how you call doubt the shyster, right? So especially with creative things, I feel like people have doubt, like, oh no, other people write books, other people do that.
Right. Absolutely. And I remember when you did the event at our shop, you were fielding some questions for people that were not, it's sort of like you've got, everybody can do this if you do it authentically, right? But you have to be in action. You have to be doing it. Yeah. And even though maybe I wanted to write more long form, what presented itself was like writing on the back of, editing things this small, and bigger stories about these things. And that's sort of how it happened for me. But I noticed with many of my friends, so many people, I would say maybe, gosh, if I had to put a figure out there, maybe 80% of people, I don't know, how many percent of people do you think have a book in them?
Oh, yeah. No, you're going to, as soon as you go to start doing book events, people are going to say, oh, you're going to be blown away by how many people come out of the woodwork to tell you that they have book ideas. Yeah. And my answer is always, I used to indulge a full-on conversation, and now it's just really short answer, which is, so are you writing?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm talking that piece of video, and we got to put that back out there is like really chestnut of wisdom, because it's really that simple almost to just start.
Oh, that's great. That's great. No, thank you. And so she's talking about an event that happened at their store at the Funk Zone in Santa Barbara, Shopkeepers. So if you're ever in Santa Barbara, go to the Funk Zone, go to Shopkeepers. Seriously. Also, so that's a place where they both express their creativity. And also when Jen, for those of you listening to the audio, when she said I was doing the writing in smaller form, she was referring to the necklace that she has on and the writing that's on the back of it. So there's poetry interlaced on the actual pieces too, which is extraordinary. Waxingpoetic.com for that. And then John has, I didn't mention this yet, it has a band, an extraordinary band, Doublewide Kings. I love it. For those of you watching the audio, he has his t-shirt on for Doublewide Kings.
Yeah. I only got one of these, otherwise I'd, tell you could buy one of these too.
So speaking of writing, so you get the book deal, and then how does it evolve that you guys end up writing this together? Because the book is in first person, which I was saying earlier, I really super appreciate that, because I feel like I'm nestled in with that person, right? But I definitely, knowing John too, I can feel him throughout. So tell us how you co-authored this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it. Well, first of all, on the first person thing, the first draft wasn't necessarily first person. There were just a couple of stories that I wrote in my own voice, and then it came back from the publisher and the editor like, it's a little jarring, transfer your voice from Patti's, and you think, would you be open to? And then so that was a whole process of like figuring out how Patti can tell my stories in there, and it wasn't that part wasn't that easy, but we managed it. We managed to get the stories done, on quite a few rewrites. The the deeper kind of intermingling of our ideas and words and whatnot really came from first just talking, and that's what we do. We talk and tease out like, where's the let's like, and then you get ideas like, wow, gosh, it's kind of everywhere. It's it's like it's a cheap date everywhere. It's like look at it's there.
It's not just cheap, it's free.
It's exactly, it's free,
Right.
and it's the best date you ever had, and it's always there for you. And it was just really fun and really exciting actually to have this assignment and to talk about it, and then to figure out, Patti kind of figured out, she was the guardrails and the taskmaster and the organizer, and pulling it all together and kind of figuring out the the structures and how the slots we needed to fill to kind of make it. We wanted it to kind of be, you could, hopefully people will start at the beginning because that gives you a backstory, and then in the end, just something like wherever you open it to, we wanted it to have an easy entry point so you could get nugget, and like you're saying, like nurturing, and open your mind and open your heart. And but the editing process we got into was really, we found there's no ego. I mean, there's ego over here obviously, but there's no ego in that process. Like Patti would hand me something and I could give it back to her quite altered, and she'd be like, oh,
make it better.
It's all about making it better. And so that was really refreshing.
And I will say, we just watched it. Have you seen that Joan Didion documentary? We just watched it, and there's a section kind of in the middle where she talks about how she and John Donne, they can't tell their voices from each other because they edit each other's work.
Yes, I love that. Is that what you guys do? It's so inspiring.
It's so interesting because John definitely has a different voice, and we did make the decision for me to be the sole narrator, which we set up in the beginning of the book, which is primarily because most of the background writing from this came from Waxing Poetic, which is a lot of that storytelling. But the reason, when we went back to them, it was sort of like I was going to write the book, and then I said, I want to co-author this with John because a couple of reasons. One, we were already co-authoring a memoir about this cross-country trip that I was telling you. That's why I went to Linda's retreat and ended up, this was like, we're happening first. Like, so we were sort of already writing together. And then the other thing is truly the way of, we've talked about wonder. Okay, wonder, it's not like, oh, there's a shooting star wonder. Wonder is like, it's like more important than air. It's like, this is the thing that has held our family together. It's saved us. It's kept us on. It's been the lantern in the dark for us more times, all the time. Right. So it's sort of like, it's not a soul experience for me. And I was like, we have to do this together, babe. Like, let's do it. And it's really kind of, it's challenging because it's sort of like, if it's the I voice, like if there are a couple stories that he's telling, and it's sort of like, we want the reader to go gently into like John land, which is he's much more of a kind of like a beat, his poetic is different than mine, but it's beautiful, it's beautiful. So we found a way to kind of, that we hope like the reader won't be completely like, what the heck is this? But we had a great editor, and the publisher, they gave us a lot of guidance to make sure that we would, have everything would feel cohesive with two voices kind of contributing that way.
Absolutely. And it totally does. And it's such a testament to your relationship. My God, just so beautiful that you, especially, I love John, hearing that it wasn't easy at little junctures, but you got through it. Like you make it work. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. There are times when, Patti was, every kind of thought that comes into her mind, it seems sometimes is coming out of her mouth. And it was all about the book and writing.
It's like when you're in a project, you know how this is.
Sometimes it's
like dinner party, and it's like,
Patti, can you just turn it off just for like a couple hours? I
was like, this is it.
We've been talking about this relentlessly for 3 weeks. Can you just give it a rest?
Oh my God.
They definitely had those. We did get through it. There were things to get through for sure.
Yeah. So, and when you're on a deadline.
Deadline's the best.
Yeah. Because, we're thinking about the memoir, we could take like 10 more years and write that and just,
right.
Sell it. But when you sell a book, you've got that deadline looming, and you're just trying to make sure that you get in the chair and do the work and make it the best that it can be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. I wanted to give a shout out to everybody to also follow you on Instagram. I'm going to have 1.7 million links for these guys because they're so creative. They've got their hands into every creative and love pot that there is. So I'll have a lot of links, but really follow them on Instagram, because you mentioned that you're writing the memoir about the cross-country trip. It was so amazing witnessing that, and also it, so there are a couple of life events that you talk about in the book, and you just mentioned the challenging times. So one of them is your getting through cancer and coming through to the other side cancer free. And then the one where I was kind of seeing you guys more frequently around when Lulu had a brain tumor. And I remember that you were planning on moving to Spain, right? When she got the diagnosis, is that right?
Yeah.
So
we've just done an exploratory trip.
So
And,
2016,
yeah.
we started the year with me in
2016 was
chemo, and then we ended the year with Lulu in having brain surgery. So that was that year.
But it wasn't a tumor,
But-
by the way. It was a hemorrhage.
Okay.
To be removed either way. So
Yeah.
Right.
There was the cancer.
Yeah.
And we were I came through that, and that was important for John as a witness, like, and also writing together. It's like the stories are shared when you're going through these things and you live with somebody. So it makes perfect sense to write them together in that way. But when we got through that, and we had a very tumultuous several years at Waxing Poetic before I got sick, which is I write about it in the book, how that happened. And anybody who has had this, and I'm very sorry, everybody's been touched by this in many ways. If you've had it, you've had cancer, or you have a friend, or it just rocks your work, it changes your life. And sometimes you're a participant in it in a way that you don't even understand until you slow down enough to witness what just happened. Whoa, that just happened. So yeah, Waxing, we were having a really, really difficult time. We sort of lost our way, and I wasn't really listening to myself. I wasn't honoring my intuition, and the things that were joyful for me in the beginning became less joyful. I ended up getting sick. And then Lulu and then after I got through cancer, my family they're like, yes, Mom, like John's like, you want to go live in Europe for a year? Let's do it. Let's just put everything in storage, because I just got this new lease on life, right? And that's how you feel. You're just like, I want to live.
yeah.
Yes.
I want to live.
Yes.
And I'm not going to like play these games. And I've realized I've been in this construct, and that's a big piece of this wonder as a way out of that, because you don't even realize that you're conforming, or you're being led into something that really isn't for you. Wonder is a very pure, free way out of that mind trap.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Anytime.
And then just full circle on that. It's not really full circle, but my mother passed away in April. The whole entire time we were writing this book, she was in hospice. And then I write about an encounter with my mom that was really magical. And when I felt free, I felt like she was, she's still here, but I just felt that life force, and I felt the safety of light and wonder as a place to like rest in from the weariness of like sorrow and what I was going through. So those are the harder things that we call magical gateways in the book. We kind of break into 3 sections, and then exalted encounters is the second section, which are sort of like those pieces of your life that have sort of been just hanging out, waiting for you to stop and take notice. And that's like serendipity and intuition, like all the things, those magical sort of stop and take notice, kind of enriching wonder experiences. And then the last one is ongoing celebrations, which are how we carry it forward, and our connections with each other, and the celebration of life, and that you're the guest of honor in your own life. And you may forget that sometimes, but it's here for you. And I'm just like, we're so fired up to live,
Right. Yeah. I feel like you guys were fired up to live before you went through these hard times, but then the hard times came, and it was like an exalted version of that, right? And it makes perfect sense that you'd be asked to write a book about it, because you are living the exalted version of it, and it's infectious. So everybody that reads the book it's going to open gateways for them to be wonderful. Okay. So when you're telling the story about your mother, which is so moving, one of the words, the seminal words in this story is, she says the word wonderful, and I'm not going to give it away what else she says there, but wonderful. And I was just like, when I saw that word, I was like, oh my God, wonderful. I mean, I don't know. I just I hadn't thought of it before. And I was, thank you for that.
I hadn't thought of it until you said it, frankly.
And the way she said it, you know, when somebody's in that, the veil's thin and you know, she's kind of floating between worlds. And when she said wonderful, the way she said it, it was like, it's like, oh, mommy, you know that this is, you know, the world needs this. Like you know, I'm writing this book. She maybe understood a little bit. And
I just got chills.
Like, oh God, Bridget, it was so all seat of the soul body experience that was
Oh, a seminal moment of your life.
And the book is like, it's the essays are only 600 words, so they're very, which is great because we kind of had to get to it. Like it's not, which is also nice because it's not going to demand a lot of time from the reader, and they can kind of just like, that story is like 2 pages, 600 words, and you really might come away with that if you're in a situation where you're trying to figure out how to say goodbye to somebody, or you know, you're witnessing them moving away, and piece of you is moving away with them. You have to kind of, it's just a little companion. I like that they're short. It's a little more difficult even to write that way, to kind of get to the essence without too much superfluous information. But it's like, but I'm very happy with, especially the pieces about the hard times, because it's in a strange way. It's more cathartic and easier to write about the hard times somehow, because you have to. It's like, and it's kind of a lot of glue that connects us all too.
Right. And such gifts to hand to somebody, like, you know, that's a gift that somebody can receive. The thing that I said, so I'm just going to, full disclosure, we had some technical issues at the beginning, and we started the interview, and I don't remember if I said this the second time around, but this book, the experience of reading this book, the cadence of this book, which you just mentioned, the 600-word essays, right? So it's not just an essay, it's an essay and a poem, inspiration, little movement, you know, like a whole movement. It felt to me like I had gone through a really beautiful yoga class. And I think that's why that cadence, right, of the storytelling and then moving to another muscle, the poem, you know what I mean? There's something so it's a lovely cadence to the book.
Thank you so much. I have to just comment on that. When they first asked us what the format was, and they said, this is not, you know, you're not writing like traditional creative nonfiction. Like, you know, we want it to be in sort of like, you know, this is kind of what works, this many chapters, and maybe we'll start it with, you know, a poem. And my initial reaction was no, like that's too easy, or it's too expected, and then I found it really comforting to have a format. Like, it's like, you know, it's like, you know, where the windows are going in your house, if you're building a house. It was really, really comforting to have, because I was kind of searching for a different way to do it. And I came back to the editor gave, and I said, you are absolutely 100% right. This works so well. Thank you. And thank you for hanging in there with me. But it's hard when you're a creative. And the other thing about this, that's for first-time authors, and this book is full color and has illustrations. We didn't have final say over anything. So for being a designer and a visual person, artist, I was sort of like, it was a big leap of faith. And I was like, I know we can write this book. I don't know what it's going to look like, but but let's just go with it. And we're really, they were so gracious, and we gave comments, and they let us contribute to the look and feel of the book. So we're really happy with how it turned out. Yeah, no, it's very you guys, the design. And I feel like, you know, I had a publisher that would not let me. I had a poem that started each of my chapters, and I had paintings for each chapter also, and illustrations throughout. And those all got ripped out of my book. And I'm still angry at the publisher, but I'm harboring the anger. I'm owning the anger that I'm harboring. No, honestly, I don't really harbor the anger. But what I want to say is that the reason I did that is, and
is the same reason that this affected me so deeply, is that I heard it in the story, and then I heard it in the poem. And sometimes the poem hit me harder. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we all hear things differently visually. The words hit us in different ways sometimes. Anyway, so I very much appreciate it.
Great. It's great to hear.
And that's a beautiful thing about poetry too. It's like space for you to.
Yeah, it's true. Connect the dots on your own. The first person to actually give us, besides the editor and the publisher, to really have delved into it and give us some more detailed feedback. Lizanne just gushed, of course, but it wasn't as detailed.
Right. Well, I'm trying to inspire the listeners to pre-order it now.
Thank you.
That'd be great.
Run off and pre-order it now. When you talk about not to swing us back to something that you covered, but the difficult times and your cancer battle, you mentioned a mutual friend of ours, Kira, saying that thing about the nub, and it's just uncanny. And I want to talk about synchronicities after this, so don't let me forget that. But uncanny synchronicities, like the day that I read that piece, I had a conversation with somebody and they said the word nub, and like, you don't hear that word very often. But can you talk about that? And I feel like there's some jewel that should be shared here for some reason about that. There's something
that was
lovely.
when we were writing this book and we're talking about wonder, and it's like, it's like, how does something like this fit into the scope of wonder? And all of it came through, it's like, it's your experience with the story and the experience and what happens. And so I just wanted to say that because this is a story about breast cancer, and specifically about our mutual friend, Kira, who had breast cancer before I did. And so I tell the story of, how beautiful she was. She really was just, a very different form of herself, almost like a pruned rose bush, right?
Yes.
It doesn't look like it does when it's blooming, right? But it's still, the energy, the life force is still in there. And oftentimes, like, those extra branches and leaves something has to go, right? To make it, to concentrate that energy back where it belongs so it can bloom again, new and bigger and better and stronger. And that's basically the metaphor of the story. But Kira, when I was getting ready to go through chemo, when I first got diagnosed, and I said, what is it like? And she said, it's like you're a nub of yourself. And it always stayed with me. I was like, a nub? Because that's such an interesting choice of words. Like, and it's so, I remember seeing her, and she was like, it was so true. She she's very slight, and she's a, slender person. She was real thin, and, she cool bandana on her head. And, she just, she looked so beautiful. And I was like, a nub. I was like, that's actually, she's a darn good looking nub. Like, that's the essential thing. It's like, so there's all this stuff that we concern ourselves with. And I think, like, everybody going through the pandemic, that's something we all went through, right? Think about all the things we lost. It's sort of like that. What is the most essential? That's the nub. And I thought that was such a good thing to put into the book, because I know we have a lot of sisters and some brothers that have had breast cancer, that appreciate that metaphor.
Yes.
And to know that you will bloom again, you will. And it's sometimes a very necessary thing to go through. Why you wouldn't wish it. I say this in the little essay, you don't ever want to wish that you get cancer.
Right.
But if you have it, you will discover that magical source, that the nub of who you are. And I think that that's something, there's something just so rich about that little word. And I love Kira when she said that, it stuck with me. And then I reached out to her, I said, I'm writing this book. Can I tell the nub story? And she was like, yeah, tell the nub story. So the nub's in there.
It's a jewel. It really is a jewel. And I'm so glad you mentioned the pandemic, because that's one of the themes of this season of the podcast, is because all of our hearts got beaten up in some way during the pandemic, and we're trying to become conscious of them so we can heal them, right? So you guys, though, were in the process of writing this book during the pandemic, right?
It actually came
a
little later.
I mean,
20
depends on when you consider the end of the pandemic.
Right.
Are we still in it? Yes.
Yeah.
End of 21. is when
Yeah, I feel like that was still,
it was
things still got canceled last year,
Yeah.
even, you know, at the
It's
beginning
like
of
whatever
Yeah.
that third wave, you
Yeah.
know, time. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
How was the pandemic for you guys? And John, you perform music, so tell us how you got through it with magical wonder.
Well, we went on this great adventure. I mean, of course, the business stresses were extraordinary. We had to shut down the shop, and then my life became applying for, loans with the government, which was a kind of a new thing. So that gave me something to do, something to focus
For
on.
two different businesses.
Our daughter was never allowed to do any, video gaming online. But suddenly it was like the only way she can be with her friends is as an avatar in these little, electronic games that everybody was being able to get together in, as like little mushroom people or whatever, bouncing around and doing things. And, that was just the way it was, then we went on our great adventure. We got our van again, and we just out on the road, going all the way across the country to see Patti's mom and her family. And so that was a great adventure. And then settling back in. Yeah. And, our businesses survived. It was tough, but, nobody got horribly ill. I mean, I think it was a lot harder on other people. My 88-year-old, now she's 88-year-old mother, she was absolutely fine. So I think we got through it pretty.
Yeah.
So
we didn't stay. The trip he's talking about is really what the memoir that we're writing about is, just hitting the road during, it was 5 days after George Floyd got murdered. We packed up our van again with surfboards on top and drove through the country.
And actually,
it was really
one of our
telling and
first-
interesting what happened.
Speaking of the band, I noticed I didn't talk about them at all. One of the first stops on the road trip went up to Lake Tahoe and stayed at this guy's place, and the band performed for this group of people outside, of course, on the porch.
Yes.
And then that's where we took a right and went across the country, because Patti's sister made the call and said, "You better come home, or you might never see mom again," which was
She's really declined.
Yeah. And we were going to go up in the north to the northwest and continue up, maybe even to Alaska, and then come back and then go across country. So that changed things. But then when I got back, I mean, the boys, we were rehearsing. We had gigs, outdoor gigs. No indoor gigs, but always outdoor. So it wasn't a complete shutdown. And of course, I mean, if you're a performer, that's the only way you're making a living. I think it was catastrophic, So, but again, I think there were loans for most people who figured out how to get them. So.
Well, I feel like you guys also had exercised the muscles of staying in wonder through trials and tribulations. You know what I mean? That's another good reason why this book is a little handy manual to walk through life, and with a little bit more strength, and some tools. You have a lot of tools and tips in here that can help people walk through difficult times and not difficult times. Just
yeah. And
it's not all about difficult times. I want to say that.
Yeah. And just a side note real quick, and we don't pretend to be to have it wired, accessing wonder all the time. I could be it could be a lockdown in my head about concerns I have, and it's very hard to get out of it for me. So we're just students and trying to get there like everybody, but we know for a fact it's really easy to get there.
Yeah.
It's just, you got to kind of slip out the side door of the busy mind. There's you gotta do whatever you can. Getting outside and just getting to nature is the easiest way, I think.
Yeah. Yesterday I was having one of those super, super stressful day, and I just made it's so hot here these days, right? But I made myself walk out and take off my shoes and put my feet on the grass in the backyard. And oh my God, it was transformative.
It's that simple.
Yeah. You get the ions from right? It's like earthing.
Yeah, like earthing, right? Exactly. I was I'd read so many articles about it, and I was like, See, but I was so happy that I thought of it. Like I made myself get up from my desk, walk out there. I don't usually do that. So it's, you know what I mean? Like you said, John, right? Side door. It's right there.
Just slip out the side door.
Like that's your yummy, delicious life.
We all think
waiting
we have
there
to,
for you,
check
right?
what's going on over here all the time. It's like, no, get outside, just commune with a leaf, commune with anything.
Wait, get out of the mind trap.
Take a minute, put your hand on a tree, look at the bee, look at just anything.
Look at the bee.
When we went cross country, Bridget, that was one kind of idea that we brought with us with full conviction that we're absolutely living in a construct that is not the only way to live, right? Like there are a lot of ways to live, and if you can leave and go see other ways and go experience people and live with very few things for a little while and just know that, come back and then do it by choice. Like don't feel like you need all of this, and because that drives a lot of the anxiety, a lot of our isolation, and our anxiety. It's like we're all sort of it's great, social media is great, we can all stay connected and that's wonderful, but it's also, we used to do things in person, like when we're meeting all strangers, we're all sharing things and people are taking their masks off because they're desperate for connection.
Yes.
And that's it's like people like us, okay, we can stay in this house quarantined for 2.5 months, or we can have a summer with our 12-year-old and like go live in a van for 2.5 months and see what that's like, and just live outside. And I just wanted to share that because I know a lot of people want to do that and some people feel like they can't, or there's some things holding you back from really doing the thing that you want to do. And that's the piece, that neglected part of ourselves that, when when you're in wonder, it feels new, it feels fresh, it feels, there's the hairs on your neck, it feels exciting. And not, life isn't always about that, but it's that, it's a break. It's a shift from, you're stuck, and when you feel, there's another essay called The Rut that's about being a rut and how it's good if you're a seed, right? If you've fallen into one, know that you have the germ to do something with that. But it's up to us to live our lives, and we're going through radical change right now in this country, in the world, and the existential threat and all the things that are happening. And like the world needs us to live like this, because if you can live in wonder, if you can access wonder, then all of a sudden your imagination becomes richer and you see more possibility. And that person that you were judging, now you're like, you're asking questions with curiosity instead of judging. That's what wonder can do for you. But it's like you have to make that commitment to yourself. Like you could be like tediously washing your dishes and all angry at the world, or you could just start tripping out on the bubbles and like that's going to save your night and make you like a kinder spouse or a better mother or a better friend, or like that. Those little shifts sometimes is something that we've discovered really can save you from. Okay,
that's a t-shirt. You got to make Way of Wonder bubble t-shirts, please. I want to something. This is something that is a quote from your book that is John. As soon as John said something, I thought of it, and then you just nailed it too. But I have to read this. We should never underestimate or take for granted how the course of our lives can change entirely, beautifully, and boldly by the simplest encounter. And John said something that made me remember that. So I had to go look for that quote. And then you just described, that was what your Vanagon, cross country thing, right? You had so many beautiful encounters. Can you tell us about one of your favorite encounters? I know there's a book coming in the future, but can you give us a little teaser and tell us what one of your favorite encounters was?
I always remember, the good stories, and usually there's some darkness in there. But maybe Patti, you should choose one. Yeah, the
Dark,
most-
darkness and light.
I have
Yeah.
there's so many, but we were in Arches National Park, and we get there, and this is like
that was good.
this was
That's
such a fun, I wrote like just the first draft of this chapter, and it was so fun to write. And I hear this like like a Stairway to Heaven, and and I'm holding it like a violin. Now she's playing this like
like a cello.
like a
A
cello,
cello. Oh,
electric one. It's like a stick with like a,
yeah.
Yeah.
and I hear them, and they've got a big rig, we're in this like, 1988, 89 van again with a pop top, like hippie mobile. And they're in this really cool, setup with lights, and they've got the big awning and everything, and little generator for their musical instruments. And it was just so trippy. It was so wonderful that night. And then the next day, and I'm like, oh, maybe we'll meet them. And it's weird still. It's the pandemic. So people are afraid of each other. We're like, it's like The Last of Us, kind of like, not that bad. But we're afraid of each other. It's like, oh, can we do this? And they invited us over, and with these squirrel divers,
these
we met
squirrel
these
divers.
squirrel
You know
divers
that is
that
flying
were,
squirrels.
No,
They
what?
jump off of like buildings and stuff with the little wing suits,
Oh,
and then they pull their parachute at the last minute. There's
Yes.
this group of
young
like
squirrel
30-year-old.
divers.
They're always doing
Yeah.
jumping jacks and doing all kinds of things to get in shape. They're just hilarious.
And they pulled up, they didn't have a spot, so we let them stay, like we made space in our,
Yeah,
because
they stayed
campsites were all full
with
then.
us, and- yeah.
So it turns
Aw.
so the squirrel divers, the Simpson clan, and this lovely couple with the electric cello, we jammed that night. And they said, do you know Summertime? That like summertime.
Oh, I love
And
that
John
song.
said, what's the,
Well, it's
tell the harp story. I don't know.
the only minor key harmonica I have is in the key for Summertime. It's an A minor harmonica. So I'm like, oh my God, I actually have the right harmonica for that.
That he's never used.
Yeah, and so I got to play wah, 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 on the harp, and she's doing the cello.
And I've got the whole thing on video, and it's the most magical little soundbite for when we do write this story. I'm like, this is like the centerpiece musically, because it's just that
It was
moment.
Summertime.
It's such a sad, it's such a, it's sad. It's the song
Poignant.
is like, that song.
Yeah,
And it's-
yes, I love that song. I sing it all the time, actually.
Yeah, and it's sort of like we were all mourning together what we were going through and all the upheaval, and
It'd
it
be a
was
nice
this
song to
beautiful
actually do
moment.
like a pandemic twist on the lyric. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
But one of
What's your
the
story?
great things about that stay was actually, I got the stand-up paddleboard out, launched into the Colorado River, right? And I found I could get out into the rapids, they're little rapids, and go down river for, I don't know what it was, maybe half a mile, and then get out of the current and go towards shore and get an eddy that would take me back up. So I had this, like chairlift to get me, and it was just awesome. That's a first for me.
That's so cool.
It was,
That is crazy cool. I didn't even know that existed in nature.
I mean, I knew there were eddies, and I think I was probably looking at it for a while going, I'm pretty sure that's coming this way, and I know that's going that way. Otherwise, I would have I didn't realize it was actually flowing up maybe, but it looked fairly mellow, so I could stroke hard and get back up, but it floated me back up.
Oh,
So that was pretty
That-
cool.
that is magic. And wonder, like you had to open your mind to see that, right? Instead of seeing, oh no, I'm going to have to trudge back on foot or whatever. Like that's
Right.
beautiful.
And
How
John's like a very, like, and I had to learn this. He's like sort of like a journey guy. Like he's not really like, I have to do it this way. I have to end up here. He's just like, I need to go. He'll just go. And the experience is whatever it is. And he has like these angels around him always that are like, he'll come back with a great story always, because he's not really trying to force it into anything. And I think that's where the magic really shows itself, right? Like think about it, like Bridget, everything that's all those times where you're just, that
I
thing
know.
happened, or you fell in love and you can't explain it, or this, all this, you survived something that you didn't think you could survive. It's like, those are those little shifts. And you realize life is here for us to support us in so many ways that we don't even understand yet. Because
Did
you know, we think we need to know, but what we should rest in is that we don't know, and that there's a lot of magic there.
There's a lot of magic.
Right. And not knowing, which makes some people scared, but because you want to control everything. So
yes,
you got to drop the control freak thing, which I happen to also have. It's super fun. The control freak thing. I have the wonder thing too, but they fight each other in the middle of the night, I think. But I wanted to get back to synchronicity too, because you just mentioned it too, like the things that magical things, you just brought us back to that. Did you guys read the Celestine prophecy back in the day in the 90s? It was about synchronicities and paying attention to synchronicities by James Redfield. Did you read it?
Yeah.
It was life-changing for me because I started paying attention to synchronicities. And a couple months ago, I posted something on Facebook and I said, I put like synchronicity in huge letters. Like I couldn't, like these mind-blowing synchronicities happening to me all day long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. But people, or somebody, excuse me, it wasn't people, it was person who said it wasn't a synchronicity. The chances of that happening are super high because X, Y, and Z. And I was like, what? Oh, it was like,
It's like, thank you. But, you should write your doctorate on that. That's a very exciting conclusion. I just love the concept of synchronicities and paying attention. And I feel like even if you don't believe in God, or you don't believe in the divine, or most people can believe in nature or whatever, and how, I don't know, the flow of life coming together. And it feels like, I don't know, it feels like your book is a little bit of a reminder of that too. Like pay attention and open your eyes to that wonderful,
and it's
wonderful thing right in front of you.
What you were saying, like, it's not, you don't have to, wonders, like, it's like, you could be like, you could say it's power of now, or it's like Buddhism, Zen, or it's mindfulness. And somebody might say, well, I'm not Buddhist, but wonder's there for you too. It doesn't matter what you are. It's like completely agnostic. It does not, wonders
right
for all of us, which is, it's the thread, it's the invisible thread between, that's there, that shift available. And you could call it whatever, like people call intuition many things too, right? Like a sense, or,
yes,
voice, a whisper. I think wonder is that's a way, it's a very easy way to just, like, you don't have to think about anything that you're prescribing to. It's just, no, wonder. That's free and easy.
I have to read a poem that you have in here that dovetails with what we were just talking about. This is on an invitation. So I love how you write it, an invitation to, and this is an invitation to each rare occasion. And the poem that is with it is, hold close, darling, everything, this place, this scene, these beautiful characters. As the moment slides away, another draws in, another. Oh, yes, another. This miracle. That is so beautiful, and a beautiful ode to synchronicities, I might say. And thank you for that. Thank you for all of these jewels in here. So you guys pre-order this book. Again, The Way of Wonder.
Oh, I need to hold it up. Here it is.
Yes, The Way of Wonder. And I will include in the podcast notes also a picture of the cover, which is so exquisitely beautiful. I'm so happy that you guys have this. You are touching the world in a lot of ways with your businesses that you do. And John, I didn't even mention this. So John, also at the beginning of his professional career, I feel like you have always been a master of wonder, because you knew what toys, John brought togs to the masses, right? Like you knew that kids would love that. Like, you know what I'm saying? To know what kids and trikes, and what else? Wait, the other thing that you did, what was the other? Razor.
Oh yeah, I was involved in Razor a little bit, the Razor scooter phenomenon. Phenomenon. Da, 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 da. Anyway,
and the Pog phenomenon. That was a phenomenon.
The funnest of which was really working with my cousin and a couple of other animators that were animating for Ren and Stimpy and coming up with these wonderful, wacky characters to put on our little discs of cardboard.
Yes.
That was so much fun. I was in business with my brother, and then the whole thing came to a screeching halt in the US, and we got introduced in France. And so suddenly we're flying to France and Switzerland, doing all of our business over there. And what a blast that was. Oh my gosh. So it was a really, really fun ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a lot of fun doing that. That was a joy. And this happened. Yeah, I mean, I was banging nails, helping a buddy build a house in Hawaii, and then noticed that, I mean, it was a Hawaiian phenomenon, if anybody knows. And then I had to come, my dad died suddenly. I had to come back for his funeral. Didn't have to, I came back for his funeral. And it turns out one person was already marketing them in Newport Beach. And I looked at my family, I said, whoa, this is going to go ballistic. You don't understand. Like, it's everywhere in Hawaii. And they were all like, yeah, I wouldn't shut up about it. Really? Okay, yeah, whatever. And then 2 weeks later, my sister called me and she said, John, the kids are lining up down the block outside the one store that's selling these. And I said, I know, I'm already putting it together, a line of designs. I'm all over this. She said, oh, it's going to be incredible. So anyway,
So
she
cool.
got in business with her,
Yeah.
and then my brother, I got my brother involved, and my other sister, she got involved, Perry and Amy and Jennifer, we were all on board. It was really, really fun.
Yeah.
But before that, I knew I was entrepreneurial, but I didn't have any great plans. So it was really a beautiful, lucky break, and if or it was just wonder coming to the rescue.
Yeah, and trusting like that,
So,
that maybe if, you could have gone into, finance or had a blue collar job or something that you maybe, like we talk about, like finding yourself in a place that really doesn't feel like you, but it requires a certain trust, and then listening, paying attention. And some people have it in spades, like this guy, like,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And some
Absolutely.
of us control, but John is receptor to, like, he's so open. You know this, Bridget, you've known him.
Yes.
I have, like,
Yes.
he's
Like-
beautiful. He just ideas want to, like birds, like they want to just land on this guy.
Yes, yes, please take me to the masses. I'm a little baby inspiration, bit of inspiration. That's yes, your portrait would have a little bluebird over you, to the right of your shoulder.
I was just looking to see if we have your book in here, but I think it's on my nightstand.
Oh, your nightstand. That's so sweet. Well,
You're one of our angels.
thank
We're
you again. Oh yeah, thank you for that. They had this beautiful event at their store, Shopkeepers in Santa Barbara, for the event, and Jen Pasteloff and I were interviewed by Patti, and Patti, you were so good. That was magical. Thank you for that. Forever, thank you for that. But thank you guys so much for sharing your hearts today, and for sharing your wonder inspiration. And you are both wonderful, and I am so happy that you're in my life, and I'm so happy that we had this conversation so that we can inspire the masses to order your book and read it as soon as it comes.
Thank you.
Bridget, you're so
Thank you, our
lovely.
wonderful friend. We love you so much.
Thank you so much, Bridget.
I love you. Thank you, Patti and John, for leading us to the way of wonder. If you loved this idea, I hope you did. Please go wherever you order your books, whether it's an independent bookseller or wherever you find your books. Please go check out and order now The Way of Wonder. You will love it. And check your podcast notes for all the other ways that you can find Patti and John. And if you liked this podcast, please go rate and review it, subscribe to it, tell every single soul that you know about it, and come again. Thanks for coming, superhero.